Okay, but it's still... I'm still getting this button. I see 3 people. I think we can turn our audios off
Okay.
as people come in.
Time for a quick comfort break.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We're going to wait a few minutes just to make sure everyone is in. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Marketing Research and Intelligence Association. Hope you're having a very good afternoon today, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend our webinar today. We're excited to bring you to our 8th webinar for the season. And you're going to hear more from our exciting presenters who are bringing their leadership insights on a very important trend we've noted in industry for a long time, but especially so now since the pandemic. Hope you've all been keeping safe and well and have adapted your business, have found the resources you've needed to adapt your business to the current environment. And keeping in mind the current context, we have brought you speakers who will shed light on the tech-enabled market research sector, which has been responsible for the major growth in the past year in market research globally, but especially in North America. I'd like to introduce you to our fine speakers. We're going to begin with Benjamin Rietti from eTabs. Big thank you to him and eTabs for their sponsorship. I met Benjamin at an Insights Association conference, and they were talking about dashboards and dashboarding and how adapting to a new SaaS environment called for a lot of automation, a lot of technique, and a lot of customization and agile thinking that still presented a huge learning curve for a lot of companies. So we are glad to have him here and talk about the magic of dashboards and how it can help grow your profits and help you come out of COVID stronger. Liz Connors is based in Seattle. She's from Headset. She brings us the cannabis data intelligence and tells us all about, is going to talk about how effective dashboards can improve decision making and empower good leaders. And they have a robust data set in cannabis retail, and they're also expanding to Canada. And we have seen a lot of their work. And Liz is going to tell you more about how managing hundreds of dashboards at the same time can be both a challenge and an opportunity, and how it shapes the role of the analyst. Dan Fleetwood from Question Pro finally will talk to us about about the different methodologies and that you can use to create to have a harmonious mix of qual and quant and serve your diverse clientele. When we met Dan last at the IIEX in 2019, that was quite long ago, and now with the pandemic, everything seems a lot longer in dog's years. So we're glad to have him speak as our survey research partner about how research survey platforms are moved into to offering research insights through effective dashboarding. So I don't want to spend more time. Your speakers will give you some excellent learning sessions. But before that, I just give you a brief background on what our plans are and what we've been doing. Our focus in the past year and in the coming year has been on pushing some really innovative content and supporting research professionals across the spectrum of industry and connecting research suppliers with clients, but also different kinds of new research positions that emerge with new business opportunities in what can sometimes seem like a very fragmented marketplace. We support the industry through programming, networking, publications, and opportunities to help you develop in your careers, advance in your careers, and specifically through our certification program. We're launching our next exam this year in this November, next week. So we're excited, and there'll be more sittings. The next one is in Feb, and contact us if you want more details about that. Professional development is the need of the hour, and we're helping our members meet their business needs and milestones and educational outcomes through numerous pathways. So get in touch if you'd like to learn more. So mastering dashboards. We're going to have three presenters. Benjamin has to leave a little early right after his presentation. So Benjamin is going to go first, Benjamin from ETABS. And after that, Liz will speak. And then after that, Dan. And then after he finishes, I will moderate the question and answers, and then we will conclude. So big thank you to our speakers today. Big thank you to ETABS. Big thank you to Question Pro Headset. And welcome, Benjamin. Over to you. Please introduce yourself and begin your presentation.
Hi, thank you, Arundhati. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, okay, yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. It's a privilege to be able to be speaking again to the audience with the MRIA. We were so sad at this side of the Atlantic when we heard that the organization was closing up, and then when it reopened, it was like, oh, that's fantastic, because you guys do an absolute wonderful job. And I remember coming out to Canada every year for several years in a row to the MRIA conference, and it was great. So I look forward when we're able to travel once again to go out there and meet our Canadian friends and clients. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. I'd like to talk for a few minutes today about some innovations and some ideas to help the struggle that many research companies and research departments are experiencing due to COVID. A little bit of background about ETABS as a company then. We've been around for 27 years, and our whole specialty is the back-end reporting process for market research. So we don't get involved in the data collection or analysis side of things. It's all really about what can we do once your existing analytical tools let go, essentially. So that means data visualization, online dashboards, and automated charting, automated reporting solutions. We've won a number of awards over the years, both from within the industry and including the Queen's Award for Enterprise, which was a wonderful opportunity to go down to Buckingham Palace, and it was just lovely. One of those probably once in a lifetime moments, and a great privilege to be there and meet Her Majesty. We're UK based, but we do have offices around the world to provide round-the-clock support to our clients wherever and whenever they may need us. It's very important in this global marketplace to be able to respond quickly, and especially when you start moving operations into the world of software and away from sort of manual effort, the expectations for responsiveness are that much greater, and therefore it's important to have a partner that's available at the end of the line almost 24 hours a day, and that's what we're here for. Okay, just a few moments to think about these impacts that we've heard from many of the clients over the last few months, impacts from COVID in particular. Clients cancelling projects, even ongoing projects, trackers, put on hold or cancelled altogether, or projects that were planning to be put into field, suddenly market research budget cut under that project. There are still projects out there, and maybe new projects coming along. And as a result of COVID, as a result of furloughing staff and so on, reduced resources. So difficulty actually meeting the potential demand and real demand that's coming through from existing and new projects. Clients are naturally watching their budgets very carefully and trying to squeeze as much as they can, reduce the costs. So therefore, leaving research suppliers with tighter margins. And if they're not doing that, or in addition to that, they're demanding more value from their suppliers and from the projects that they've invested in. So these are some of the key issues that we've been hearing. These sort of painful impacts that you may be experiencing due to COVID and the global downturn in business, it may therefore come as an initial shock to suggest that now would actually be a time to innovate. Innovation tends to cost money and also means introducing changes at a time when there's so much uncertainty. However, to survive this turmoil, we need to be like the chameleon that's constantly adapting to survive in an ever-changing environment. Innovative reporting has long been perceived as taking heavy technical wizardry or coming at significant cost, whether that's to automate PowerPoint outputs or to display a relatively simple yet interactive set of charts in an online dashboard. It's no surprise then that many companies don't even consider dipping their feet into the water, and especially at a time like this when companies are all struggling and may not think about proactively putting time and effort into innovation. However, innovation doesn't have to be expensive, and it could well make the difference between keeping or losing a client or project, or the difference between becoming stale in a client's eyes or making tangible changes that will be mutually beneficial and promote you to being seen as their partner rather than just another supplier. Let's look at online dashboards first. They can be an easy, efficient, and effective means of communicating research findings to your clients and stakeholders. It empowers them to interact with their data, and depending on how much access you want to give them, enables them to play around with the data, filter it, and explore some what-if type scenarios. Let's face it, more and more clients are asking for online dashboards with their projects, particularly in this world of remote working. Dashboards aren't for every project, but can be relevant to many more project types than you'd initially consider. Even one-time ad hoc projects. So if you still have the chance to be proactive with your client, go ahead and misquote McDonald's. Would you like a dashboard with that? You'll be surprised how many brownie points you could score. It can also be way cheaper than you'd think. I mean, for example, our approach is to let you design and show off dashboards to your heart's content, and there's nothing to pay until your client actually likes it and decides to go ahead. So nothing to lose and a whole lot of kudos and potential profit to gain. We often find that the industry has been using the wrong tools for the job, using solutions that, quite frankly, are not the best fit. The dashboard platforms on offer don't typically or fully meet the exacting needs of the market researcher. Those solutions are mainly BI, which stands for business intelligence tools. And basically in our industry, we need a BI tool. Sorry, we need an MR tool, not a BI tool. Business intelligence tools are great at what they do, but they simply don't speak our language. And that's where the initial problem lies. So currently, if, say, we want to use multi-response data, show significance, stat testing, low base indicators, or to calculate top two boxes. You have to be an expert in coding or data manipulation to display it on a dashboard. Using an MR platform to build MR dashboards would certainly seem to make more sense without the challenge of shoehorning MR data into a solution that doesn't natively understand the actual language of market research. And just because MR tools are specialist tools, that doesn't mean they have to cost the earth or be complicated to actually deploy. Which brings us to the next opportunity for change. If you're still hand posting numbers into PowerPoint decks, then now's certainly the best time to invest in automated charting and reporting. No matter what quantitative project type you're doing, your low-hanging fruit will definitely be trackers or multi-market projects where there's a fairly consistent template which can be auto-populated. Our belief, however, is that we should always be on the lookout for automating wherever possible. That automation doesn't have to mean all or nothing. So even if you have a tracker with variation, where some questions change over time, or a multi-market project where the brands themselves or the number of brands may change between markets, it's still worth automating as much as possible. Attune yourself to be on the lookout for opportunities. Maybe adjust your concept ad or copy test template so it can be more cookie cutter. Consider adding value to a syndicated study where, for very little extra effort, each subscriber can get a deck that is tailored to their branding or pays attention to their brand over the other brands covered, perhaps when brands are being sorted and so on. Like I mentioned earlier, it's those small things that can make all the difference to a relationship. So invest more today, and hopefully you'll secure that client or project for tomorrow. I'm often asked if there's any mileage to be gained with auto charting, purely ad hoc projects. Of course, the whole principle of automation is to take a process that's repeated and find a way to automate those repetitive tasks. By its very definition, a project that's ad hoc isn't something that is necessarily templated. However, being that I believe so strongly in applying automation wherever possible, I like to take a step back and analyze any deliverable. For instance, are there patterns in the slides, the same set of slides repeated across categories, or would it help the research if they could start their reporting with a pre-processed, automatically generated chart deck and then cherry pick the ones they want for their story? So it's about, like I said, finding ways to make automation work rather than necessarily putting up barriers. Regardless of project types, there are two other strategic benefits to invest in automated charting. The first being accuracy. Even if we're not talking about completely hands-free reporting, the fact that you can be confident with data being pulled into your charts directly from the data tables is huge. And finally, an incredible yet often overlooked benefit of automation is that projects can be set up on interim or dummy data. And then when the final data is released, you can update an entire deck of slides, literally a presentation, only to discover an email in the morning from DP saying, "Oh, I used the wrong weighting. Please use this file instead." Of course, this has never happened before, and no one here will ever relate to that, but reduce the cost of reporting. That's what technology is there for. It may cost you more upfront, but the savings will be snowball affecting as you go on with time. Two, once the headache and the onus of reporting is transferred from your fingers, you'll have both the time and headspace to utilize your analytical skills to dig for additional and more deeper insights. Three, seize new, tangible revenue-generating opportunities. For example, if fieldwork is monthly, but reporting was only just about manageable quarterly, then consider dashboards, which are sort of potentially real-time, or automated charting and offer monthly reporting for very little extra effort. If that offer doesn't go down well with your client, quite frankly, I'd be shocked. Four, manual reporting not only costs you valuable time, but is prone to error. So by reporting directly from the source data itself, reduces those chances for typos and inaccuracies. You and your client will have more confidence in the data being reported. Simple as that. Five, smaller projects in particular can begin to consider pitching on on larger, more complex projects than a small company would otherwise have never even attempted to pitch on due to lack of resources. And finally, point 6, with the cost of reporting reduced and new channels for revenue generation opening up, your profit margins can be increased. So in summary then, innovating has many strategic benefits. It gives you the chance to add value to what you're doing now. You can do it better and you can do more of it. It gives you ways to generate more revenue and maintain or grow profits. It strengthens client relationships. You'll be partnering with your clients and moving ahead rather than just doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And finally, even your staff would appreciate it. Instead of exercising their fingers, they can finally exercise their minds, and that's a lot less stressful too. Their increased job satisfaction will translate into a happier team and company. I've seen it time and time again with so many clients. So how can ETABS help you? Well, we give you free access to Iris, our cloud-based dashboard creation platform, so you can begin to put dashboards together and showcase them to your clients without any commitment whatsoever. And like I said, that's being proactive to your clients, and they really would appreciate that. We have automated charting solutions as well that will literally bring a smile to your face as you watch entire decks being populated time after time, and more than happy to arrange for you to see that at a time that would suit you. We have data visualization and infographics tools that can transform traditional charts into powerful, more visually attractive stories. Again, that's showing your client that, okay, let's change the format. Let's make this look better. And again, clients will perceive that as adding value. And finally, if you'd rather we did the automation or dashboard setup for you, rather than doing it yourselves, we have an entire team who can do just that. So thank you for your time today. Thank you again, Arundhati, for putting this wonderful webinar together. I hope you found this presentation helpful and thought-provoking. Please feel free to reach out for any advice. My email address is on the screen there. And stay safe and well. And hopefully we'll all come out the other side stronger.
Retailers' data and present back to them actionable insights for them to use to manage their business. Today, that's presented on our sample of retailers and a whole lot of statistical methods. And then unlike maybe some of the more old school market research firms, what we do is we create that data into a software as a service product. So our market data is subscription based. It's meant to be self-service. It's always real time. All of our reports refresh overnight while we sleep because of the dashboards that we've built. And so today what I want to talk about is a little bit about how we think at Headset, how me and my team think about building these dashboards, knowing that we aren't going to be sitting there with our end user for every single piece of information. So what I'll talk about first is just a little bit about the benefits of dashboards, though I think that was covered expertly just before me, so I won't spend too much time on that. I pretty much agree with literally everything you just said. I'm then going to talk about the evolving role of the analyst because it's changed a little bit. Not to make myself sound too old, but I don't think that the word dashboard was a word that people used when I first started out as an analyst. So we're going to talk about how analytics as a career and as a business provider or a business service provider has changed as a result of some of the technology that's available. And then finally, I'm going to talk about how I think analysts should be building dashboards and how you as users should be asking for dashboards so that you can get the most out of them. So to start, I think there are a lot of benefits to using dashboards, but to me, the most major ones are that they are scalable, they're reliable, and they're consistent. And so with scalable, what I mean is once you've made a dashboard for one organization or one person, that dashboard is instantly reusable as long as it's made well for all types of people. So for example, in our tools that we use, we've built one dashboard that is a segment analyzer, right? So you pop in and it tells you how this particular segment is doing. It gives you the product landscape. It tells you trends within that segment, what things are growing and shrinking. All this stuff is encapsulated into this single dashboard. All you need to do at the top is change the segment or change the time frame or change the market. And what you have are, I tried to do the math beforehand, we have 115 segments and 11 markets. And so what I have there is over 1,000 different reports from that one dashboard that I've built, right? You can generate 1,000 reports just from that one dashboard. Now we have, 50 in our retailer platform and 40 in our insights platform. So if you can imagine, that is a lot of reports that you can produce. So that's quite scalable. Reliable. So the nice thing about dashboards is, if we have some old school analysts on the line, I'm sure you remember when you would have to submit requests to get data, right? So it might be the end of the month, and then a week from now, all those reports that people made will be put together and sent out to you, right? Now, if Tom in reporting was on vacation, maybe they'd be a little bit later. If we had turnover in our reporting group, right? Someone might not remember how exactly to program, and so we're not certain if we're always getting the same data. I think the other thing that's really nice about dashboards is we define our measures ahead of time. So once I've defined what sales is, that sales definition is the same for every user and every person in the organization. And I think that's critical. I once spent a very long engagement with a company where their marketing department and their sales department had different definitions of sales. And what that meant was they were each making decisions based on slightly data that had been sliced and diced differently. And it created a lot of animosity between the two groups because the way that they were attributing and adding up revenue was different, and it made it difficult for them to talk on the same plane. But at the same time, it made senior leadership not trust the reports they were getting. And the reason that was happening was because they weren't all getting their reports from a single centralized place. Rather, they were allowing each set of business users to kind of just pull data however they liked. And I think that then brings us into consistency. So not only is the measure that we're talking about consistent, but the reports themselves are consistent. So we don't have issues where, maybe a report we got last month looked at month over month sales, but the report we got this month actually looked at year over year sales, right? What we want to do when we're doing analytics, especially when we're doing trending analysis or when we're getting something, we're getting reports sent to us that are meant to be the same over time. When we change what's underneath, it actually changes the way that people interact and can interpret the data. And so it can lead to all sorts of decision errors with data. And it's one of the things I feel super passionately about is keeping people from having decision errors with data. So I actually studied I went to get a PhD in managerial accounting and specifically managerial decision-making with data. So I ran a whole bunch of experiments and did a lot of research on how people interpret information that's put in front of them. So there's all sorts of cognitive biases that can happen. And then there's just, standard data errors. Well, I think as we talk about the way the world looks today with all these software as a service, all these dashboards that you can just plug and play, right? So for example, for cannabis retailers, if they use headset data, they from the moment they call us, it's only about maybe 15 hours before all the dashboards are up and running for them, right? So this is a very fast way to get a lot of data. But that means that kind of how we as analysts function is very different. So I think when we were talking, 15, 20 years ago, people using data in companies, it was a lot of like manual Excel reports. As the analyst, you were usually sitting there with the business user. The business user would submit an email or a form and say, I'd like this data. I have this question, right? And then you would call them as the analyst and you'd say, well, tell me more about your question. I used to joke that as an analyst, about 40% of my time was spent just being a therapist. So they would say, I need sales data. And I would say, well, tell me why you need sales data. Say, well, sales are down. Say, oh, what makes you think sales are down? And we kind of trickle down to get to the bottom of it to figure out what the true issue was before we start building those reports because they were so customized. Today, we don't often sit with our end users. I've not met all the people that log into the dashboards that Headset creates. And I don't always know exactly what they're trying to do. And so what that means is, as an analyst, we need to start building these dashboards and putting together our analytics in a way that our end users are sure to be able to use it in the right way. So whereas before I might have been able to say, well, tell me why you think that, or why do you want to know that, or what are you going to do with it? We need to do that questioning up front, and we need to be sure to build our dashboards in a way that we can address sort of all those kind of forking bits of the questions, right? So all those kind of rabbit holes that someone might take an analysis down. We want to be certain that we've programmed the dashboards in a way that helps them do that and gets to the right decision. And so what I'd like to do next is just do 2 quick examples of things that I think dashboards should always be doing. So whether you're an analyst on the call and you're building these for people, or whether you're a business user of dashboards, I think it's important to keep both of these in mind. So make sure that your dashboards do this if you're building them. And if you're using them, I think you should ask your dashboard builders to try to help you get some of this in there. So the 2 things I'll talk about today, though there are many, are contextualizing information and then determining root causes of trends. So I'm going to show you kind of 2 different ways we could have done a dashboard for each of these and show you how different our analysis might have turned out if we didn't have our dashboards put together in a thoughtful way. So for contextualizing data, what you're looking at here is sales of vapor pens. So this is vapor pen sales. I think this is in the state of California, I'm pretty sure, over time. So there are a couple things I want to point out on this. The first one is this kind of area right here. This is about this time last year, early fall last year. This is, I think a lot of people remember there was a lot of negative media around vapor pens. There was vape lung. Was an issue. And so vapor pen sales really trended down, and you can see that. The next thing you can see is kind of this period over here where they sort of stabilize and actually start to grow. And so I actually saw analysts writing reports on data that looked like this, saying vapor pens are back and they're growing, and everything has been revived from vape lung. It's no longer something that we consider when we talk about sales. But I want to put so this is this line here. This is what they were looking at when they talked about it, right? They kind of took this line, they drew this line on the graph, and they said, look, that's an upward trend. That's good. But in here, so the second line they drew was to show that you see there in December, our sales are about the same level as they were in August, right? So everything had been recovered. Of an upward trend, this navy blue line, where the sales line was. And so that conclusion that people had made that vapor pen sales had rebounded and were growing actually wasn't entirely true. What had happened was vapor pen sales fell and kind of normalized at a new normal, a new level, and they really stuck there. And all of that growth that we're seeing in vapor pens in that blue line, that's just inherent market growth. So the cannabis market is growing very fast. A lot of states have still, states like Colorado, which have been legal for 6 to 7 years, they're still seeing 40% year-over-year growth this year. So sales grow quickly in this market. There's just a lot of underlying growth. And so when we saw that vapor pens were trending up with that light blue line, really all we were seeing is that vapor pens were being lifted with the rest of the market around it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the trend is super negative. That's not what I'm trying to say. But having those 2 pieces of information together, I think helps you better understand that sales trend and diagnose what's happening. So I'm going to do one other quick example, and it's determining the root cause of a trend. And so here what we're looking at is the average item price of flower. So that's the buds of marijuana. So this is the average item price of flower in Alberta. And I'm sure the first thing you notice is that nice upward trend starting in February. So a lot of people started to see this. Prices are going up is what this graph tells us, right? Prices are going up. Well, let me put a different line on this graph for you. So that first line you were looking at is the average item price. So that'd be the price as you grab the item and you scan it across the belt. I guess people don't scan things across belts anymore. As your Square app notices a navy blue line, we might have thought to ourselves, well, shoot, I think I should be increasing my price. It looks like everybody else is charging a lot more. Now that we've added that light blue line, we see, it actually isn't that people are charging more. It's probably that package sizes are changing. So in this dashboard, our next piece of information in here is the distribution of unit volume by package size. And lo and behold, what we see here is when you look back earlier, in earlier days, you see 1 gram packages were, more than a third of the market for a while. Today, those are less than 10% of the market. Whereas we see that kind of teal, sorry, I didn't order my sizes, they're great. That teal line or that teal color, those are ounces. So now we see about almost 10% of unit volume is in ounces, these bigger packages. We see quarters, the 7 grams, which is that kind of orangey color, at more than 10% of the market. So what's happened is, rather than people increasing their price, is manufacturers are starting to make bigger packages, which makes the average price per item go up, but drives down the average price per gram, as consumers usually get, when we think about like the Costco effect or the Sam's Club effect, right? When we buy something in a bigger package, usually the price per ounce or the price per sheet of toilet. And what we see is a super stable price trend here in 8. So that's good. That tells me maybe I shouldn't do anything about my price. But I'm going to take it just one step further. And this is actually the distribution of prices. It's the distribution of unit volume by price. So what we ended up finding, this is kind of what it looked like last year. You see sort of 2 groups of products. You see sort of this kind of better priced set of products and this premium set of products. What we see today is very different. So while the average item price is the same, we see that a lot of unit volume has shifted down into like a cheaper product, that kind of good or value price product. And a lot of the premium, and then a larger premium segment has kind of emerged on the other end. So while our price generally looked relatively flat within 8s, actually what's happened is we see kind of this emergence of both a premium and a value segment. So if we had just looked at that very first graph, that average price over time, what we might have concluded is we needed to raise our prices. But when we really dig down to the root cause of the issue, I think the conclusion actually is that we should be thinking about either making a value product, so making a new product line of like a cheaper sort of value product, or maybe what we want to do is make a premium line. But this is really different, this conclusion we come to when we're looking at the data all that way. And so that is really kind of just me. That was my goal today, was to show you how different ways of presenting data might bring you to different conclusions, and the importance of making sure that the dashboards you're using don't just look pretty, but actually can help you get to where you're going. And so with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to the next presenter.
Great, thank you, Liz. That was really interesting. I think it's right. Depending on how you present the data, it can tell different stories, right? So that was interesting to get down to some of those root causes. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, today I wanted to talk and kind of change the conversation slightly different and come at it at a little bit different angle. I think the presenters that were on before me provided a good background of dashboards and how those can help. What I want to do is kind of take a step back and really think about the data that we're collecting and how impactful that could be, and then how to stay relevant. So we all know that dashboards bring the data to life, but it's also important to ask, I think, impactful questions and make sure that those question types, those things that you're doing in your survey or your research are relevant and can then lead to key insights in the data as well. So who am I? I'm Dan Fleetwood. I head up the research and insights here at Question Pro. If you're not familiar with Question Pro, we are a powerful set of research tools that help our clients and others make better decisions and really help forge amazing experiences. We do that through many different methods or tools, but through our surveys platform, our communities, online sample, and then different services that we can offer as well. Feel free to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I like to stay active and connect with people in the industry, especially those in Canada as well. So I'd love to connect and get a conversation going about whatever you might want to talk about. So today, what I want to do is talk about some of the keys behind impactful dashboards, probably expand a little bit or just add to what Liz and Ben had mentioned earlier today. Also want to talk about really the top 4 question types that I see that you can use for impactful dashboards. These might be a little bit different than you're used to, and also will help I think add to the depth of the data and different studies that you're running, depending on obviously if these are relevant to that. But I think they will be, in terms of just adding that richness to the data. And then a bonus, how to bring qualitative into your dashboards, and then by proxy, obviously, your research as well. So let's talk about the keys. There wouldn't be any dashboards to report, or at least it wouldn't be that interesting. I really think that there's a saying, obviously, we've probably all heard it, garbage in, garbage out. I think that applies to both data and dashboards as well. You need to make sure that you're collecting the high quality data and insightful data for the dashboards to really make sense, and then really to also help tell the story around good dashboards that will instantly highlight those key findings. So you need that data to really bring to life, I think, the story behind it. And I think that question types and also the methodology that you're going after really matter, and making sure that you're asking those questions and so forth. And then also having those questions that when you see it on a dashboard, it's going to look really impactful as well, and will really help tell that story inside of the research that you're doing. So when we think about it, what are some of those 4 question types that will really help you with and make your dashboards more impactful? And really the way that I see it is there are 4 question types that you can use between Gabor Granger, Van Westendorp, MaxDiff, also anchored MaxDiff 2 and conjoint, that will really help you tell the story. And these might be things that you're not so familiar with. Obviously, most of these are around pricing or putting different constructs or choice-based methods. But if you can use these inside of your surveys or the research that you're doing, I think it'll make things really impactful, as you'll see in some of the analysis coming up and some examples of what this might look like in a dashboard. And so the first one here that I wanted to talk about was Gabor Granger price modeling. So, oops, sorry, I'm not advancing the slides here. Okay. So Gabor Granger price modeling here. So really the aim is to find the maximum price each respondent is willing to pay. So let's say there are 8 price points, and it really asks multiple questions of what would the product price be at X, and would the respondents be willing to pay that? And then you go through a series of different exercises here. This is an example of one of the dashboard or the reporting, but really it's asking questions that are, would you be willing to buy a product at, let's say, $100? Then the next question would be, would you be willing to buy a product at $150, and so forth. And then when the respondent answers no, you know that is really the maximum price they're willing to pay. And then through some of the calculations behind it, we get the Gabor Granger pricing model that really helps measure the elasticity of demand and find the revenue maximizing price points. For example, we've helped clients who are video game developers reset their standard pricing for add-on items using this Gabor Granger pricing method. So you can see when this on a dashboard is going to be impactful with rich data to not only see different price elasticity, but also see sort of the demand curve and revenue maximizing price points over time. So when you see this on a dashboard, it's quick, it's impactful, and you can easily tell that this data is going to be relevant in a list of questions on a particular dashboard. Next, I wanted to talk about Van Westendorp price modeling. And really, if you're not familiar with this one, I'll give you a brief overview, just like I did for Gabor Granger. But with this one, you're really trying to determine what the optimal price is. So, and it really is by asking 4 different questions. I'll go on to this next slide because I think it'll help tell the story. It's around answering, asking really, at what price would you consider the price to be too low, that you feel the quality wouldn't be very good? And then at what price would you consider the product to be a bargain, a great buy for the money? And then the next question would be, at what price is the product starting to get expensive, so that it's not out of the question, but you would still have some thought in buying it? And then really, at what price would you consider the product to be so expensive that you wouldn't consider buying it? So really, there's four things there. Is it too cheap? Is it just enough of a bargain to where you might still buy it? And then is it expensive, or is it too expensive? And this tells you what at what price points the market can potentially accept at all of those different ranges, and you can see that. So this is an example of what it can look like in a dashboard. So you can see here that there's a lot going on, but when you see this in a dashboard, it's definitely impactful, and it really kind of jumps off the screen, to me at least, to see, okay, I think this must be something that has really relevant data here and can be used to really help showcase not only the dashboard, but your research in general. And then second is max diff analysis. So I'm sure most people have used max diff analysis. If you haven't, it really is a simple yet effective way to really make choice comparisons. And if you're used to, if you ask a battery of like rating questions on a scale of 1 to 5, typically if you have a big matrix like this, most of the responses will come in, 3, 3.5, 3.2, somewhere in that range. So there's not a lot of differentiation between the choices, but you can use max diff for that. You can also use it for different trade-offs between what's most important, what's least important in different products. But really what I think it helps out with is, really making these comparisons and really having what's most important, what's least important to the respondents that I'm asking. So if you're having any of these trade-offs, you can definitely do this. And inside of the dashboard itself, it'll look really nice, and I think it will help take your research to the next level, especially if you do have these different trade-offs here. And then a step further that you can take it is with anchored max diff, where you can really turn this relative model into an absolute model by really finding out what is the most important of those different attributes that people are asking. And then that can just be something else that will help tell the story around the data that you've collected, because now truly, is this important? Is it not important? Not in terms of relative to the choices that you put out there, but in more of an absolute sense. Like, is this even important to the respondents that I'm asking, or is it something that that we can't see because of the traditional max diff scaling method? And then there's conjoint analysis. So this is one of my favorite question types. When you're talking about what set of attributes is the best combination for a particular respondent. And this one I really like because it really measures the choices and can analyze different trade-offs between different combinations of features and products. And also, you can get the importance, and you can do different market simulations and so forth inside of this. But if you have if you have a conjoint, I think, in your study, and it's obviously relevant to the research that you're doing, it'll really help with bringing to life the dashboard and really helping to tell the story. So this is a question type that I would use if you have doing any sort of product research. You want to know what the best features are and that make up a particular product. I would definitely consider this question type because it'll add a lot of depth to your research, and then it will also really help shape the dashboard and bring those to life as well. And then next is a little bit different. I call it a bonus because we haven't really talked about it, and I think traditionally you think of dashboards just being quantitative based, right, with numbers and charts and different graphs and so forth. But I really think you can add a qual to your dashboard in terms of really collecting this data and then displaying that on a dashboard in a meaningful way that will kind of help differentiate the different types of data as well. So one way you can do that is, we call it livecast, but essentially it is a way to collect video feedback within a survey, and then that data can then be analyzed, later on in terms of, different sentiment and different categorical tagging and so forth. And this will be definitely information if you have it in your dashboard or you include it in with the survey and have the respondents collect video as they're taking the survey. It'll be another way, obviously, to include some rich data inside of your dashboard and by proxy your research as well. So inside of this, you can do a lot of different things, from emotional recognition to machine learning through the different sentiment analysis that we're bringing in this question type, and then conversely on the dashboarding as well. And having this mix of qual and quant, I think, adds a lot of richness to the data as well. And then with that, I will actually say thank you. I wanted to make sure there was enough time in case there were any questions, but if you need anything or have additional questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, there's my LinkedIn and my Twitter. Now, I'll pass it back to you, Arundhati. All right, were there any questions?
I don't know that I see any in here. Let me open up the chat and see if there's anything real quick.
Okay, I'll do the same thing here. Let's see.
I don't know that I see any big questions in there except kind of tech
Hello?
issues. But oh, hey, there you are.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I was on. My audio was off.
Oh no.
Everyone, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box. But in the meantime, I want to kickstart with a few questions. The first one is for Dan. Thank you all, by the way, Dan, Benjamin, Liz, for your amazing, insightful presentations. Since Dan ended, I'm going to feel this one to him. You using both quantitative and qualitative research to leverage impactful data and insightful data. And global spending on quant has far outpaced Dan on qualitative research. So are you seeing that reflect in what clients are willing to spend for their dashboard features? Like, is there more of a demand for the quant features in their dashboard, and they're being very particular about qual, for example?
Yeah, I think quantitative definitely still is sort of the baseline, and they really need that inside of their dashboards. With the advent of qual, and I think COVID definitely impacted this quite a bit, in that they couldn't do like traditional qualitative research like in person, so they needed more of an online solution. And with that comes demanding this in dashboards as well. So we really kind of addressed the market there and got more qual inside of the dashboards. But I definitely think quantitative is sort of like the meat and potatoes, if you will, or kind of the staple of any good dashboarding techniques.
Awesome, thank you. Next, I want to ask Liz, how does working with cannabis retail data dashboards compare when you're dealing with problems and applications in other sectors?
Yeah, for sure. I think cannabis has been different mostly in that it changes rapidly, and laws are really different between like states and provinces. And so the way that we think about a market is it's really different across state lines. And I think too, the space is just evolving rapidly. So not only is there explosive growth in cannabis over the last few years, it's not just, products that exist growing in sales. We see a lot of new brands and a lot of new concepts coming into the space. And so, if you're Coca-Cola and you're building dashboards for Coca-Cola, they might not be as concerned about a small competitor that didn't exist in January completely eroding their market share by October. But if you're a major gummy manufacturer in cannabis, that for sure can happen. And so just sort of the speed with which things happen makes very different how we want to do our analysis, so that we can, make sure that trends are popping up fast enough, because something that felt like a little tiny ripple in the water can become a tsunami within just a few months.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Benjamin is back, so I'm going to field him a question. You talk a lot about your dashboards being particularly for MR and not BI. Can you explain this a bit in terms of do MR dashboards need to brace themselves for or accommodate more BI now to serve more clients? And the second part of this question is, can the auto charting tool deal with stat testing?
Okay. Okay. First question then about the dashboards. So essentially, MR data is more complex than BI data. Very often, BI data may be bigger. You're certainly entering into big data potential there, but MR data tends not to be as big as that. Then there's no reason why you can't, to use a phrase that's sort of called fuse. There's no reason why you can't be fusing data from MR with BI data at the same time. So, dashboard tools, our own platform as well, can have multiple feeds. So you could have your survey data, but then fuse it with transactional data, with any other type of data, benchmark data, and so on. So the two can coexist in a single MR tool. However, it's very difficult for the MR data to coexist with BI data in a BI tool. It's not impossible, but it's a lot of work. I mean, I saw the sort of the instructions for trying to shoehorn MR data into Tableau, for example, like 38 pages long. That's a lot of manual pages to go through nowadays. Stat testing?
Yes. Can the auto charting tool deal with stat testing?
Yes, we can. Absolutely. Stat testing is a biggie. And so not only can we pull data automatically into different charts and slides within PowerPoint, but yes, we can also handle stat testing, show different indicators on the slides, and so on.
The next is back to Dan. How closely or should the dashboard be able to mimic the theoretical environment where not many clients may have the same level of knowledge about things like Gabor Granger or MaxDiff, or know when to conduct price modeling choice?
To be relevant, but when you can use them, I definitely would, because I do think they have that richness or depth, as I probably said repeatedly during my presentation, but that's all right. But they can be easy to implement. I still think there's obviously other question types.
I think one of the things that's always worth doing is thinking about the components that make up any metric that you're looking at. So if you're looking at total sales, let's say, total sales at a store is really only made up of two components, right? The total number of transactions and the average transaction size. And when we think about the average transaction,
Jones, and beginning this month, we're having the first sitting of the CMRE this next week, and we're excited about consider the Gold Seal application to be certified in that regard for your firm. Otherwise, we have ongoing career development and networking opportunities that we will keep you posted throughout the year. If you signed up for your communications, you will hear of those. And yes, I hope this webinar gave you enough insight about the future of data visualization and captured some key trends and what to look for in the coming space as we stand at an important industry crossroads with market research changing so quickly. We're excited that you chose to spend your time today with us, and please keep sharing your feedback and thoughts. And we look forward to continuing our engagement with you in the next event and through other channels. Thank you so much again, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and day.
Thank you.
Thank you.